Happy Camper Radio starts in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to the Happy Camper Radio Show, the only place you need to be when you're ready to talk camping. Camping is what we're about. Camping is all we talk about. I'm Skip, the Happy Camper, and I know you can be a happy camper too. What do you think of these awful temperatures we've been facing here recently? I'm sure some of you folks are up in the Northeast right now or probably wishing you were here in the South, but we've got our own cold temperatures, and I know the folks up in the areas like Boston, Pennsylvania, a few other places have really been getting hammered this weekend. So if you're out there camping, please take some extra caution and watch after yourself, watch after your kids, and make the very best of it. I know I like the wintertime camping too, but in cases like this, I think I would just rather sit at home by the fire and just get as comfortable as I possibly can get. Our phone number here at the Happy Camper Radio Show is 404-537-CAMP. That's 404-537-2267. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to Circles on Google+, and now you can subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel where you will find all of the episodes of Happy Camper Radio. You can listen at home, you can listen in the car, you can listen at camp. There's a lot of ways you can tune in to the Happy Camper Radio Show. Let's take a moment now to shout out to some of the newcomers to our program. We've got a nice list here to Bobby Morgan, Rennie Ortega, and SSS Off-Road, who liked us on Facebook. We also want to say hello to Dave and Janet, Lauren Manuel, Larry Kay, Giles Parker, Raphael Alexander, Annie Earnott, and the folks over at Little Guy Trailers in Sugar Creek, Ohio. They're following us on Twitter. And last but not least, we also want to say hello to Michael Noble and Mountain Trout Camp, who added us to Circles on Google+. Thank you all so very much for joining us and being a part of this great Happy Camper Radio family. Hey, would you like to be a guest on our show? We'd love to have you. If you're into camping, if you want to talk about anything in the world of camping, all you've got to do is give us a shout here. You can start by emailing me, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com. You know, really the easiest thing for you to do is sign up for a Google Plus account, because every now and then we're going to put out an invitation to all of our Google Plus followers and let them know that, hey, we're going to open the window, and if you'd like to be on the radio show here at the Happy Camper Radio podcast, then you'll get an invitation and you'll have an opportunity to say, hey, yeah, I would like to be on the show, and would love to talk with you too. We've had some wonderful guests on the program. Just make sure that whenever you click on to Google Plus, that you add Happy Camper Radio to your Circles, and we'll definitely add you back. Hey, we've got a new program here that I want to introduce you to. Yes, the Happy Camper Radio Show has recently signed up with several affiliate programs. If you're looking for some new camping gear, maybe a backpack, a new sleeping bag, or really anything in the line of camping supplies, no matter how big or small, chances are you can find it online. Not everybody has one of those big box stores nearby. I know where I want to move to someday, hopefully in about 3 years from now. The closest big box store is going to be like 25 miles away, and it's not going to be like where I am now, where I can just make a quick run to the store to get anything I want. Chances are, if I wanted to have the convenience of buying something, I can do it right online, and you can do that too. You can have the product shipped right to your doorstep. You can sign up for other great offers and services too. All you have to do is go to our website, www.happycamperradio.com. Browse through some of the ads right there on our homepage. Each time you click on an ad and make a purchase, you help to support this wonderful camping podcast. We've got a great show here for you today. Something I think that we maybe touched a little bit on this in the past, but I want to go ahead and talk about it today. We're going to talk about camp fuel safety. Now, many campers are using propane to fuel their camp appliances. It's a very popular fuel today. It's very easy to obtain, and a lot of the appliances that are being introduced by the manufacturers, and there's a lot of good manufacturers to choose from, but a lot of them are leaning, in my opinion, more toward the propane appliances than the liquid appliances. Some campers, like myself, do carry a variety. If you have some of the appliances that will be operated by white gas, or otherwise known as Coleman fuel, some of these are dual fuel appliances. In other words, they carry the Coleman fuel or unleaded gasoline. They can burn both. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot burn unleaded gasoline unless that specific appliance is labeled dual fuel. Again, we have propane appliances. Some do have butane. Now, I've talked about some of the stoves that I use, and they require these butane canisters. They kind of look like big hairspray canisters, and they're not easy to buy. You can't just buy them anywhere. I have to look around. Chances are I've got to go to a camping supply store. If I'm in the mountains, I'm lucky enough to have a hardware store nearby that does have a camping supply aisle, and they do stock these. So if I'm going up near one of my favorite campsites, I know along the way I can always stop into this hardware store and purchase a handful, maybe 5 or 6 of them. They go for about $3.50. You can get them cheaper in some other places. And then, of course, there's natural fuel, and that's your cooking over an open flame. So there's a lot of ways to prepare your food. There's a lot of ways to provide heat. And again, the folks in the Northwest right about now, or the Northeast, should I say, are probably enduring all the heat that they can probably get their hands on. Now, heating your tent, I want to talk about this. This is so important, and if you're camping this weekend somewhere and you are in a tent, chances are you are going to have a tent heater. They're good for fall, winter, and springtime camping. Tent heaters, I want to point out, there's several types. There's propane heaters to heat your tent. There are some ones, ancient ones, and I came across one not very long ago that I picked up from a guy who was just wrapping up his yard sale. Anything that he could not sell at that yard sale, he dumped in his pickup truck, and he happened to be going to a local Salvation Army to drop off all that stuff. I was in the process of dropping off a few items too, and I was pulled up behind him, and I laid my eyes on this old model tent heater that it was like a big green dome. I think Coleman made that. I know they don't make them anymore, but I remember as a young kid, my parents had one of those. We had a very large tent, and that heater managed to very comfortably heat the tent and keep us warm in the fall. I believe we did go on a fall camping trip, but anyway, we did use that heater. It looked exactly like the one I had, or the one we had. And I says, I've got to see what this guy wants for it before he drops it off. And I went up and I introduced myself, and I told him who I was, and I says, hey, I'm interested in that neat heater you have in the back. Well, he says, I don't know if it still works or not, but I wanted $2 for it. Here you go. I gave him $2, and I walked away a happy camper. Very simple as that. All right, but I have that heater in the garage. I don't know exactly where it's at, but it's somewhere around here. I don't think I would be comfortable using it. And I'm going to talk about used equipment here in just a moment, and some used equipment that you really, really should stay away from. But in choosing a heater for your tent, you're going to want to choose something that's compatible to the size of your tent. You don't want to overdo it. There are several models of tent heaters that you can buy. And the one camping supply store that's a well-known company, and I really like to spend a lot of time in there. I try to keep my plastic in my wallet as often as I possibly can, because I can really go overboard with that. But you don't want to overdo it when it comes to your tent heater. You don't want to buy the biggest one they have if you have a tent that sleeps only 4 people. Because what you've got to be mindful of is the tent's ventilation system. Some tents do have a port on the outside to accommodate a fuel line. In other words, if you have a 20-pound propane tank on the outside and you can run a line inside your tent through this small port, then you are able to keep your heater on the inside, and for the most part, that's going to keep you comfortable all night long. I know a guy that has that, and I in fact, he just bought a tent about a year or two ago, and he goes camping with us quite frequently, and I see one of those little ports on the side of his tent, and I knew right away what that was for. But the sole purpose of that is to keep your fuel source on the outside and the tent heater on the inside. You're going to want to make sure in any situation where you are using a tent heater, I don't care how chilly it is, I don't care how freezing cold it is, you want to make sure that your tent is properly ventilated. Remember, carbon monoxide fumes are deadly, and you really should learn all you could about deadly carbon monoxide. I'm going to put a link on our website for you to go ahead and take a look at, and I'm going to put it there. You'll find it under Skip's Corner under the link section. All you do is click on that, and it'll provide you some very valuable information. Here's some things you don't want to do. And I know this can be tempting, but it's something you definitely do not want to do under any circumstances. I will tell you to pack your gear and go home if you are that cold before you go as far as to placing a charcoal grill inside your tent for the purpose of keeping warm. Don't ever, 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 ever do that under any circumstances. They provide deadly carbon monoxide fumes, and they can kill you. Do not use a charcoal grill, no matter how small or how big, and put it inside your tent. I know some of us are saying, look, we know better than that. Why are you even mentioning this? Well, here, let me tell you something. Last year, not very far from where I live, a house burned down, and the house was totally destroyed. Fortunately, everybody got out. Thank heavens for that. Now, we often wonder what started the fire. Could it be a faulty heater system? Something in there? Could it be a car in the garage? You know, a lot of things go through your mind when you hear there's a house fire not too far down the road from where you are. But what we found out, the owners or the tenants inside the house weren't able to pay the gas bill. The gas was shut off. There was no heat inside the house. And the person who was staying there, I believe this was a rental property. I'm searching my mind. But the person inside the house went to extremes in order to try to provide warmth for his family. And he ended up building a campfire in the middle of his living room. All right? Come on, people. We know that that's something you should not do, but here we go. We're talking about somebody going to the extremes in order to keep their family nice and warm. I don't want you to go to the extremes as a camper and put a charcoal grill inside your tent saying, look, I'm going to do anything to really stay warm while I'm out here. Right? Do not do that. Another thing you don't want to do, never place a lantern inside your tent. Never light a candle inside either. Candles inside of homes have started fire. They will start a fire inside your tent. You never want to light a fire in your tent either. I know I'm saying some things here that, should just make perfect common sense, things you don't want to do. But it's all about, like the Boy Scout motto, you be prepared. If you're going to go camping in the fall or in the winter, you're going to want to bring a tent heater with you. And you're going to want to make sure that that tent heater is a newer model, that you have read all the safety measures, that is compatible with the size of a tent that you intend to heat, and all the manufacturer's instructions have been followed to the letter. Again, for more information on carbon monoxide, I want you to go to our website under Skip's Corner, under the link section. That's www.happycamperradio.com. Go ahead and click on that and read all you can about deadly carbon monoxide. Take all the necessary precautions you can, folks. That's very important. Do you transport 20-pound propane tanks to your campsite? Maybe you're one of these campers who go camping and all of your appliances are fueled by propane. The neat thing about 20-pound propane tanks is they can be refilled or they can be exchanged. The exchange program today is very popular. Today, there's many retailers participating in an exchange program. You can change out 20-pound propane tanks at hardware stores, building supply stores, convenience stores, and even your campground stores sometimes have a program where if you run low on propane, you just go right up to the campground store, and it's right there in the campground. You don't have to leave. You don't have to really even drive. And I would suggest maybe you take your car because they can get a little bit heavy. But the bottom line is you don't have to go very far to get your propane tanks exchanged. Now, many campers can go through an entire camping trip on just one tank. It depends on how many fuel sources that you are providing camp fuel to. If you're using a camp stove and you're only heating up food in, say, like in the morning time or the evening time, you've got a cold lunch, chances are you're going to get through your entire trip with just one 20-pound propane tank. Some go extra prepared, like myself, and you carry more than you normally would. Some folks carry an extra tank or two in the event they run out. Some campers use a distribution tree when they're using 20-pound propane tanks to provide fuel to their appliances. It's a neat little tree. It attaches right to your tank, and then you attach 2 or more lines that go out to various appliances. And I can tell you this much, those lines that go from the camp tree to your appliances, they're a little on the expensive side, depending upon the length that you want to run from the tank to the appliance. But if you go to any store, like maybe your Walmart store or any camping supply store, you'll find them. They're always in stock. Now, I want to talk about transporting your 20-pound propane tanks and the safety concerns I have there. First of all, you're always going to want to inspect the tank for damage. If you find out that your propane tank is damaged, return it to the place of purchase and exchange it out. Remember, you are dealing with compressed fuel. I don't want to even imagine what would happen if a propane tank got ruptured. It's beyond my imagination, and you definitely don't want to have that happen at your campsite, on the way to your campsite, or on the way home. So for that matter, it's going to be important that you securely fasten your 20-pound propane tank somewhere in your vehicle during transport. You're going to want to keep it away from sharp objects. You're going to want to keep it away from open flames. What I do, and this is very neat, and I didn't think this up, because my eyes are always floating around. I'm always coming across people who do different things, neat things, that I think can enhance my camping experience. You can take these 20-pound propane tanks, and if you find yourself an old milk crate, they will fit in there pretty darn snug, but it does provide stability. So if you're going to carry some propane tanks and you're going to be transporting them and you don't have a way of attaching them securely in place while transporting to and from your campsite, see if you can find some of these milk crates. You really won't have to look very far to find them, but they are great for transporting the 20-pound propane tanks. How about the 1-pound tanks? Now, I'm a fan of these. Some campers prefer the convenience of 1-pound propane tanks as opposed to the large 20-pound, which are a little bit heavier, they're a little more bulkier. But I like the 1-pound tanks for a variety of reasons. Number one, you can easily purchase them locally. I would recommend that if you're going to go the route of 1-pound tanks, definitely purchase them locally for the best bargain. I know not very far away from the campsite that I go to in the North Georgia mountains, I managed to find some of these in a local drugstore, because the hardware store that I wanted to go to was closed at the time, but I needed a couple extra tanks before I went to the campsite, and a package of 2 around about $7. You can generally find them for under $5 for a package of 2. So if you can get them locally, you're going to be much better off. If you're going to buy these in packages of 2, keep the packaging in place, the wrapping around them for stability. Somebody asked me how long the 1-pound tanks will last. Well, definitely not as long as a 20-pound tank. But as far as you using the 1-pound tank for the purpose of heating your tent, from my personal experience, I can say this: it will not last an entire night. You're going to want to keep one or more spare tanks inside your tent. You want to have matches and a flashlight ready because you're going to need those when the fuel runs dry, and you'll know when the fuel runs dry. There's no question about it. You'll start getting cold, you'll start shivering and say, whoa, let's go ahead and get that tank replaced. You want to handle these with care because chances are when you do get alerted to the fact that your 1-pound fuel tank has run out, you're going to wake up and you're still going to have some very hot surfaces that you need to deal with. I have this one heater that actually attaches to the top of the tank. The tank itself sits in a stand, but that metal surface can be very hot. You've got to be very careful about that and never allow small children to change out or ignite the tent heaters under any circumstances. That's something that an adult needs to handle. You never want to attempt to refill a 1-pound propane tank either. These tanks are not refillable, folks. I know somebody who has attempted this before, whether he was successful or not, but if you read the instructions on these 1-pound tanks, they're going to say dispose of properly. If you want to get a propane tank that is refillable or one that's exchangeable, then I would say upgrade to a 20-pound tank, but don't try to go ahead and refuel these miniature 1-pound tanks. Dispose of them properly. Keep them in a separate bag if you need to. Take them home. Take them to the dump station, wherever you take your trash. And if they have a recycle program, definitely participate in that. Remember this, folks. Safety does come first. Whatever your fuel requirements may be, here's number one. Remember where your children are. This is so very important. Camping is fun. Camping should always be fun. I put it first in my life next to my kids, but I remember in taking my young children camping, the last thing you want to have is an accident occur. You don't want anybody to get hurt. So make sure your children are safe, know their whereabouts at all times, and always make sure that your children avoid playing around appliances or playing around open flames, and that includes the campfire. Here's another thing, too. Charcoal grills. We talked about them right here at the beginning of the show. Some folks enjoy taking a charcoal grill with them. You want to make sure that your campfire and your charcoal grills are kept as far away from the tent as possible, or your sleeping quarters. I know some people who actually take their sleeping bags, park it right next to the campfire in order to stay warm. I remember a long time ago, I'm going to go back about 20 years now, when we were up at our big campsite, the one up in Hiawassee that we talk about, and we camp in late November, or should I say mid-November? It's right around mid-November we go camping. But one winter up there, it was extremely cold. It was bitterly cold. And a lot of the guys took their sleeping bags out of their tent and parked near the campfire. Now, the fire pit up there is probably about 10 feet in diameter because we go through a lot of wood. Our campfires are very big. And naturally, if you're sitting around that campfire, you're going to be as warm as toast. And some of the guys just couldn't stomach the idea of sleeping in their tent because they didn't have tent heaters, and they brought their sleeping bags near the edge of the fire. One of them actually rolled in the fire in the middle of their sleep, and we had to go drag him out quickly. So, this is it can be dangerous. It can be tempting to park your sleeping bag right next to the campfire and go to sleep, but that's not always going to be the safest thing for you to do. I have taken charcoal grills to the camp before. I much prefer having my own as opposed to using the one that the campsite provides. The one at the campsite is out there in the weather 24/7. You're going to have to clean it. You don't know who was cooking on it before, but if you have your own appliance and you're bringing it there, you have cooked on that before. You have cleaned it before. You know how it functions. You know all the parts that come with it. I would recommend that you bring your own charcoal grill, but again, never under any circumstances use that for the purpose of heating your tent, and keep it as far away from your sleeping quarters as you possibly can. Keep your first aid kit handy, and I know I don't talk about this very often. It never hurts to have a fire extinguisher somewhere nearby. If you have one in your vehicle, bring it out and put it in your tent. Carry an extra one along with you. If you carry these boxes like I have that store all your camping equipment, you can purchase a small fire extinguisher that will last you a good long time. But it's a safety issue. It's a safety matter. It's something that you really should have with you each and every time you go camping. Safety comes first and foremost. You can never have enough safety around you when you go camping. But it's always good, my friends, to just, keep this information handy. You can always refer back to it, and you can always carry the Happy Camper Radio Show with you on any camping trip. It's time now for our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. I love the campgrounds that are open year-round. And I found one right here in North Carolina. Do you like horses? Do you have kids who love horses? Here's a campground that you may want to go to, and it's part of the National Forest in North Carolina, and is run by the U.S. Forest Service. It's the Canebrake Horse Camp, located right here in North Carolina. And I want to point out right from the very beginning, you do not have to own a horse in order to go camping at this campground. But if your family loves horses, if you like sitting back by the fire watching somebody, a fellow camper, ride off into the distance on his horse, this might be an ideal campground for you to go visit. The Canebrake Horse Camp lies in the Baden Lake Recreation Area. It's a hub for outdoor activities in central Georgia's Uwharrie National Forest. I also want to point out, too, that this time of year, it's going to be first come, first serve. Between January 1st and March 13th, you don't have to make reservations. All you have to do is go. And keep in mind, because of the temperatures being like they are, not everybody is going to be fall and wintertime campers. They're not going to be springtime campers. But, if you happen to decide that you want to go out here, it's a great place to visit. Take a look at some of the pictures that are on their webpage. I'm sure these are summertime photographs, but it's very, very beautiful. Lots of great shade. The winter temperatures, they say, range from the low 30s to the upper 50s, while the summer temperatures, 80s and 90 degrees. Can't remember when we've seen that in a very long time. Make sure you check out some of the Know Before You Go items. They're right down there at the bottom of the website. And as always, don't move firewood. Purchase your firewood locally. It's a great place to visit. If you love horses, if you love being around that type of environment, consider the Canebrake Horse Camp in North Carolina. It is our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. And as always, if you have a campground that you would like for us to feature on the program, get in touch with us by calling 404-537-CAMP, or you can get in touch with me, Skip, SKIP, at happycamperradio.com. Make sure you include a link to the campground website, and if we decide we're going to go ahead and include it on our homepage, it'll be right there for everybody to see, and I would love to talk it up, too. A lot of folks have some great camping destinations, a lot of which I do not know about, and I'd like to be able to go to those campgrounds sometime down the road, because I'm getting up there in my ages, and I'll tell you this much, it's going to be not very long before I can say, hey, I'm retired. I don't have to go to work anymore. I can kick the alarm clock to the curb. I can grab my gear and go camping anytime I want. And I would love to take this show out on the road. That's the most exciting part about doing this show, is when we're away from the studio and actually in a campground setting with lots of great people around who enjoy camping as much as I do. Hey, thanks for joining us. Don't forget you can catch us online anytime at www.happycamperradio.com. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to Circles on Google+, and subscribe to us on YouTube. The Happy Camper Radio Show is a presentation of Skip Huber Productions. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper. And no question about it, my friends, you can be a happy camper too. Talk to you next week. This is Happy Camper Radio.